There's a silent war happening inside you. A war between the version of you that knows exactly what you're capable of and the version that's terrified to become it. You feel it in the quiet, don't you? That strange moment when everything goes still, and for just a breath, you catch a glimpse of the person you could be. Powerful, disciplined, clear, full of love that doesn't need permission. But then, it fades, and something inside pulls you back. A voice that doesn't scream, but kills. Who do you think you are to dream that big? This isn't a motivational video. This is about truth. The kind that lives beneath your self-sabotage. The real reason why you delay, why you hesitate, why you keep living on the edge of your potential without ever stepping into it. By the end of this, you'll understand what really keeps you small. You'll name the unconscious fear that's been blocking your growth. And more than that, you'll feel something deeper. The quiet permission to finally become who you were always meant to be. Because your fear isn't laziness. It's not a lack of talent. It's the terror of becoming someone you no longer recognize, someone you've always been capable of becoming, but were never allowed to. Let's go deeper. Most people aren't afraid of failure. They're afraid of what happens when they finally succeed, because success is threatening, not just to the outside world, but to your inner world too. You're asked to die, to bury the version of you that was comfortable being small, relatable, safe. You've worn that version like a second skin, not because you love it, but because it's familiar. You raised your wounds inside that identity. You made a home out of your limitations, so when a moment opens, when the path clears, you don't run toward it. You retreat, because to grow means to leave behind, to drop the excuses you've used to justify your pain. It means you can't say, "I'm not ready anymore." You can't say, "I've been through too much." To become who you were meant to be, you have to stop hiding behind what happened to you. And that's terrifying, because if you let go of your past, who are you now? Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And stepping into your full potential, that's exactly what it is. Facing your soul, naked, no excuses, no mask. This is what transformation really means. It means facing your fears without the mask. It means seeing your own light and knowing it might intimidate the people around you. It means becoming powerful and realizing you'll never have the same excuses to disappear again. That's why so many people chase healing, but avoid transformation. Because healing can still happen in the shadows. You can read books, go to therapy, meditate for hours, and never change the shape of your life. But transformation, that asks for all of you. It's not a patch, it's a reassembly, and recovery is painful. Because as you begin to grow, you start to lose the version of you that needed to stay broken. You begin to make decisions that scare your comfort zone. You set boundaries that shock the people who were used to your silence. You become someone who is no longer available for mediocrity. And that comes with consequences. Because deep down, you're afraid that if you become big, you'll be alone in that bigness. You worry that if you finally become all that you are, people won't understand. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're too much. And maybe they'll leave. So what do? You pull back, you slow your instincts. You get distracted, you stay busy with almost. And some days, just enough. Enough to feel like you're moving forward, but not enough to actually leap. But here's the truth. Your potential isn't a fantasy. It's a memory of who you really are, that urge you feel to grow. It's not coming from the outside. It's your own being knocking on the door. It's your higher self screaming, "Come home." And still, you wait for permission. You think you need to be more ready, more stable, more confident. But the truth is, no one ever feels ready to be powerful. Because power carries weight. It demands that you take full responsibility for your life. And the moment you realize you can no longer blame your parents, your trauma, or the world for where you are, that's when real maturity begins. That's when growth stops being inspirational and starts being uncomfortable. But uncomfortable doesn't mean wrong. It means you're expanding. It means you're stepping out of the familiar cage of self-doubt and into the wildness of your truth. And this is only the beginning. It doesn't feel like growth. It feels like disorientation. You can't relate to your old thoughts anymore. The distractions that once pulled you in now feel shallow. The wounds that once defined your identity start to feel heavy. And even though this should feel like progress, it doesn't. It feels like loss, because the part of you that's rising doesn't have proof yet. You're in unfamiliar territory. You're not who you were, but you're not fully who you're becoming either. You're between stories, and that in between is where most people turn back. Not because they lose courage, but because they mistake the discomfort of growth for danger. Your nervous system is wired to protect you. So when you start stepping into more clarity, more visibility, more power, your body interprets it as threat. Even the good can feel dangerous when you're not used to it. Love can feel unsafe if pain was your first language. Success can feel fake if you were taught to earn your worth. Peace can feel wrong if chaos was your childhood baseline. So your system pushes back, not out of sabotage, but out of protection. It whispers, "Better the devil you know." That's why you procrastinate. That's why you keep one foot in your old self. That's why you do just enough healing to feel hopeful, but not enough to break the cycle. You're not afraid to try. You're afraid to become. Because once you become, there's no going back. No more hiding behind potential. No more blaming the past. No more replaying your victim story just to feel seen. You'll have to own your power fully. And that's terrifying. Because power comes with responsibility. If you rise, people might expect something from you. They might put you on a pedestal. They might project their fear onto your confidence. And what if you fail publicly? Those thoughts aren't weaknesses. They're old wounds. Echoes of childhood moments where you were punished for shining too bright. Remember when you spoke up and got shut down? When you succeeded and were told not to brag? When your growth made the people around you uncomfortable? That's not fear. That's memory. Was it when your family grew distant the moment you started to rise? At some point you learned the message. Being full of yourself is dangerous. So, you adapted. You became humble to a fault. Quiet about your talents. Apologetic for your desires. You got so good at surviving, you forgot how to live. But survival isn't your purpose. You were made to create, to impact, to shine. And yes, that might disrupt others. It might unsettle those who benefited from your smallness. But playing small doesn't serve the world. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And here you are. standing right at the edge of it. Becoming. Your soul is asking you to move. Not with force, not with guilt, but with conviction. The kind of movement that begins in silence when you finally stop running from yourself. You don't need more affirmation. You don't need someone else to validate your readiness. You need the courage to be seen, fully, deeply, without apology. And that means facing your shame, because shame is the thread that binds your potential. It's the voice that says, if they really see me, they'll leave. If I'm fully visible, I'll be rejected. If I try and fail, I'll prove I was never enough. But none of that is truth. It's trauma dressed up as logic. Here's the real truth. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are not a mistake. You are a soul with depth and fire, woven into a story that's still unfolding. And the hunger you feel, no, it's not a sign to slow down. It's a signal. It means you're close. Close to a version of yourself that doesn't play small. Close to a life no longer dictated by fear. Close to the moment where excuses lose their power. So what now? You don't need to fix everything today. You don't need to know how it all unfolds. You just need to take the next honest step. Not the perfect one, not the one everyone claps for. Just the one that feels true. Not the step that gets applause, just the one that feels honest. That single choice made with integrity begins to realign everything. Your mind, your nervous system, your belief in yourself. You start to realize, I'm safe to expand. I'm safe to become. I'm safe to be powerful. And this is where everything begins again. Not from fear, but from trust. There's a moment in every transformation where you realize you can't lie to yourself anymore. You've tried to distract, to deny, to delay. You covered it with noise, endless journaling, busy work, shallow conversations. But something deeper is moving now. A quiet ache that refuses to be silenced. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it just whispers the truth. You're not just tired, you're unfulfilled. You're not just stuck, you're spiritually misaligned. You're not just afraid, you're standing at the edge of becoming more than you've ever been. But to cross that threshold, you have to do something terrifying. You have to give up your coping mechanisms, the stories you told yourself to stay small. The personas you built to earn approval, the patterns that kept you safe, even if they slowly drained your soul. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you were before fear got in the way. The version of you that dreamed without limits, that spoke freely, that moved through life with wonder, not performance. And here's the brutal truth. The longer you delay your becoming, the louder the pain grows. Because pain is a message. It shows up as anxiety, procrastination, despair. Not to punish you, but to wake you. To remind you that the life you're tolerating is not the life you were built for. And when you're at the edge of your breakthrough, resistance usually screams the loudest. You'll want to quit. You'll question everything. You'll convince yourself the timing isn't right. You'll crave certainty, but there won't be any. There will only be the next honest breath, the next brave moment, and the one decision that whispers, I won't abandon myself again. Transformation doesn't come with guarantees. It comes with surrender, and surrender isn't weakness. It's an act of power. It's the moment you stop fighting for your truth and start aligning with it. It's when you say, I don't know what comes next, but I trust who I'm becoming. And here's the deepest truth, the one your soul already knows. You were never meant to be ordinary. There is brilliance in you waiting to be seen. There are words in you that were never meant to die in silence. There is love in you powerful enough to shift rooms, cities, lives, but only if you stop hiding. And yes, it's terrifying, because when you finally show up as your whole self, you risk rejection. But you also create space for real connection, not with masks, not with illusions, but with people who can meet you heart to heart. Carl Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, because it's easier to chase improvement than to sit with what is and call it worthy, to face the unpolished parts of yourself, not with judgment, but with compassion, to realize that the healing you seek doesn't come from fixing, it comes from embracing, from saying, even this version of me is worthy of love, even this version has value." That shift, that radical acceptance, is what unlocks everything. Because when you stop needing permission to exist, your potential stops asking for approval to emerge. And suddenly, you feel a new kind of energy stirring. Not adrenaline, not fear, but conviction. You no longer want to live half-truths. You no longer want to settle for half-love. You no longer want to be liked more than you want to be free. And that's when something changes in your posture, in your tone, in your eyes. You no longer shrink when you speak. You no longer apologize for your fire. You no longer play small so others feel comfortable. You begin to live from your center, and people can feel it. They may not understand it. They may even resent it. But deep down, they will respect it. Because authenticity is magnetic, even when it disrupts. So what does that mean for you, right now? It means you have a choice. Not a perfect plan, not a glowing path. Just a moment. It starts with a choice, a quiet, personal declaration. I'm done dimming my light. I'm done repeating cycles I've outgrown. I'm done confusing survival with success. You have to choose honesty over hiding, action over avoidance, alignment over approval, not for anyone else, for you. Because your future doesn't begin with applause. It begins with a scream. That quiet, burning scream that says, enough is enough. What most people don't realize is this: fear doesn't always show up as panic. Sometimes it disguises itself as logic. It tells you to be realistic. It whispers, don't dream too loud. Don't love too much. You might fall. It screams, you're not ready. You don't have what it takes. And you start to believe it. Because it sounds familiar, safe, reasonable. But what if that voice isn't your intuition? What if it's a scar, a memory, a leftover echo from the time someone laughed at your dream? From that moment you reached, and no one caught you. From when your authenticity was punished instead of honored. Those experiences don't just hurt. They shape you. They become silent rules, etched into your nervous system. Don't rise. Don't be too much. Don't trust joy. It always leaves. So you keep yourself small. Not because you lack ambition, but because you fear the cost of expansion. Because every time you moved toward your power in the past, something painful followed. Abandonment, ridicule, shame. And that pain became your body's alarm system, even when the threat is no longer real. So when life begins to open again, when opportunity appears, when you feel the edge of stepping into more, you freeze, you sabotage, you run. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system was trained to associate greatness with pain. That's why healing isn't just emotional, it's neurological. You have to retrain what you associate with being seen, with being bold, with being powerful. This doesn't happen in one breakthrough moment. It happens in small sacred choices, choosing to speak when you want to stay silent, choosing to rest instead of prove, choosing to receive instead of chase. Every time you act in alignment with your true self, even in fear, you build trust with yourself, and that trust becomes the ground where your potential finally begins to root. Here's the truth. Your gifts don't bloom in perfection, they bloom in softness. And safety isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. You create it by honoring your yes and your no, by keeping your promises to yourself, by learning that discomfort doesn't mean danger, it means growth. And growth is messy, it's not linear. Some days you'll feel invincible, others completely exposed. But even in the unraveling, there is sacred progress. Because you're no longer hiding, you're no longer abandoning yourself to fit into spaces that can't hold your fullness. You're learning to sit in the fire of your own potential, without running from the heat. Carl Jung once wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." To live from your true potential, you must be willing to wake up, to see yourself not as broken, but as becoming. To know that the voice of doubt is not prophecy, it's residue. Leftover fear, silenced childhoods, old pain still echoing in your mind. But your soul knows better. It's not waiting for permission, it's waiting for your attention, not for the perfect moment, but for your yes. So what happens when you finally say yes? You stop negotiating your worth. You stop performing to be loved. You stop living in fear of rejection and start living from a sacred-rooted purpose. And that's when things begin to shift, not just outside, but in your entire internal reality. You begin to speak differently. You begin to move differently, to speak, to love, to show up differently. Because when you trust your own potential, the world responds. Not instantly, but undeniably. People sense it. Energy shifts. Doors open. Not because you force them open, but because you're finally walking through them as yourself. If you felt something inside you, waiting to come alive, waiting to break out, waiting to take its place in the world. That's not your imagination, that's memory. Not a memory from this life, but a deeper one, a soul memory of who you were before fear rewrote your story, of who you still are, underneath the survival roles, the polite masks, the scarred tissue. The world taught you to fear your light, because it didn't know what to do with it. It called you too much, too intense, too sensitive, too driven, and you believed it. So you dimmed, you shrank, you survived. But now you're not here to survive. You're here to expand. You're here to take up space, to stop minimizing your gifts just because others haven't found theirs. That voice in your head, the one that says you're not ready, you're not enough, your voice doesn't matter. That voice isn't truth. It's programming, fear printed into your nervous system. But if you were truly powerless, you wouldn't feel this much resistance. You only resist what's already alive inside you. You only fear what already belongs to you. And if you're craving more from life, it's because something in you knows more is possible. The only thing standing between you and that life is the belief that you can't handle it. But you can. You will. You have to. Because this isn't just about you anymore. It never was. It's about who you become when you stop letting fear call the shots. And maybe that's why your path has been so heavy. Because your light wasn't made to fit inside the lines. It was made to break them, not just for you, but for others, for your family, for your future children, for the quiet ones who never got the chance to speak. So don't waste another moment negotiating with fear. Don't waste another day trying to be palatable or polite at the cost of your soul. Let today be the day you rise. Let today be the day you say yes. Yes to the calling. Yes to the risk. Yes to the sacred work of becoming who you truly are. Not perfect, but honest. Not fearless, but brave enough to move anyway. Your potential never left you. It's been knocking. It's been calling. And now, it's your move. You don't need a sign. You don't need a breakthrough. You just need to stop abandoning yourself and start again with love, because the moment you stop living from fear, the moment you stop hiding, you begin to heal, and the world feels the tremor of your awakening. If this message stirred something inside you, don't ignore it. Sit with it. Breathe into it. Then take one small step toward your potential today. If this video helped, like it. Share it with someone who needs this truth. And subscribe to Depths of You for more content that speaks to the soul. And if this message truly hit something real, leave this in the comments. I'm ready to stop hiding. Because your voice matters here. Your presence matters here. And this is just the beginning.